Chair McLean for holding this hearing, and I can't believe that I have to say this here today, but biological males competing in women's sports is fundamentally unfair. My colleagues on the other side of the aisle time and again tell us to follow and trust the science, yet we are here having to have a debate on a subject in which science has proven definitively that males have a physiological advantage over women, including body size, greater muscle mass, increased lung capacity, larger hearts, bone density, and mass, and less body fat. These differences create significant performance gaps between post-pubescent males and females, and these are the facts, and those who claim otherwise are threatening the integrity of Title IX and the ability of women to compete on an equal playing field. The Department of Education's proposed rule conflates sex with gender identity and blocks schools from adopting and enforcing policies that altogether ban transgender students competing on teams consistent with their gender identity. This move sacrifices the integrity of sports, denying the importance of maintaining a level playing field for all athletes. Ms. Perry, you previously wrote that rather than clarifying Title IX's application to sex-based criteria in athletics, that this proposed rule complicates it. Could you elaborate on that?
It makes something that was previously very cut and dry, very simple, and for which there are 5 decades of jurisprudence and congressional history, and suddenly likes to pretend that we don't understand what this definition of sex was. In fact, this particular law that we discussed today was the result of 250 different versions between House and Senate bills and months of negotiation. So to say that somehow sex, when it was adopted, was somehow ambiguous is just patently untrue. So what we've seen, even after Title IX was amended in 1987 with the Civil Rights Review Act, Restoration Act, there is specifically an opportunity to again go back to the drawing board, to expand the definition of sex, to include gender identity. This is about, at bottom, the rule of law, the Constitution, and congressional authority. The Biden administration cannot, with a stroke of a pen, unilaterally redefine longstanding federal law without going through the appropriate process.
Thank you. And Ms. Gaines, your profound dedication to sports, including your tenure as a swimmer at Kentucky's women's teams, it speaks volumes. Given your extensive experience, do you fear that if the Biden administration redefines Title IX to encompass gender identity, that it might deprive young women of academic and athletic prospects that they rightfully deserve?
Of course. As we've seen, again, at least the past year and a half since I've really started noticing this issue after I was directly impacted by it, we're seeing this as a trend, and it's an exponential trend, and again, only going one way, and that is adversely affecting women. So I believe if the Biden administration pursues this rewrite and equates sex with gender identity, this would most certainly negatively harm women.
And as per the Washington Post, women's sports have seen an incredible surge, growing over 1,000% in the last 50 years, and as many have said, 3 million participants in 2022. Do you share the concerns that allowing biological men to dominate women's sports might discourage women and girls from pursuing athletics K through 12 and in higher education?
Absolutely, and it's not only necessarily the domination aspect. It is the safety aspect. It is the fear of speaking out. It is the locker room aspect. Those are all contributors to ultimately discouraging women from playing sports. And I want to say too, it's not about domination. A male playing on a women's team, even if he places dead last, it's still taking a roster spot. It's still taking an opportunity away from a deserving woman. So it's not all about domination. But yes, I certainly believe this issue does discourage women from playing sports.
Thank you. This intrusion threatens to undermine hard-fought progress and to deter future generations from embracing the opportunities sports offer. And with my remaining time, I want to turn back to you, Ms. Perry. What more can Congress do to ensure that the Biden administration is not able to radically alter Title IX?
A couple of things. At first, if this rule is published, this chamber has 60 days to be able to vote on a Congressional Review Act challenge and disapprove the law. I encourage the individuals who are forthright and brave with a courageous, steeled spine to be able to do just that if for some reason a Congressional Review Act challenge fails and it goes through to the Federal Register, I'm quite certain there are a number of individual public interest law firms that are ready to file suit. And in the interim, this chamber, as well as the upper chamber, should consider passing legislation specifically to keep sex separated and distinct by biological sex.
Thank you. Many of us in this committee and across Congress were parents and were grandparents to young women who will directly bear the consequences of an administration that chooses to ignore a scientific reality, the clear and biological differences between men and women. We cannot stand by and allow radical policies to trample on common sense, and I'm proud to yield back, Madam Chair.